Judy Shecklin, Susan Artker.
Hi, good afternoon. I am representing the National Organization for Women here in Jacksonville, and since I only have 2 minutes to speak, I provided you with NOW's positions on currently filed legislation, and thank you again for the opportunity to speak. Our highest priority this legislative session is passage of the Equal Rights Amendment. We want Florida to be the 38th state finally placing women in the Constitution. The ERA would provide legal rights for all American citizens regardless of sex. It requires in cases of gender violence such as domestic violence and sexual harassment that states intervene, and it protects women against pregnancy and motherhood discrimination. It would also federally guarantee equal pay. We also support legislation that protects women's access to reproductive health care, including the bill affecting access to abortion services. And we also oppose restrictive legislation such as the parental consent for abortion bill. We're encouraged this year to see so many bills that are strengthening protections against gun violence, which is the main cause of death for women in domestic violence situations. We also think it's time for bills that have been languishing and not passed or even heard to come up, such as the Competitive Workforce Act, ensuring protections for LGBTQ people, and the Helen Gordon Davis Fair Pay Act, which would provide for equal pay for equal work. Also, we hope that voting rights can be secured, as was overwhelmingly supported by the citizens of Florida, regardless of fees, as ensured by HB 6007. Finally, we treasure our children, and there's much legislation this session that limits the detaining of children in adult facilities, as well as expunging criminal history. So again, I hope you take time to review our legislation. Many thanks for allowing me to speak.
Thank you very much.
And thank you, Senator Gibson.
Can you, excuse me, Ms. Shecklin, you have a question?
Yes, sir.
You recognize.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You made a statement that I kind of found shocking. So maybe you could explain the position of the organization.
Certainly.
I know, so I'm a former school board member, so our kids have to get parental consent to be given Tylenol.
Right.
But I just heard you say that you don't think that they should have to get parental consent as a minor to have a medical procedure performed on them. Could you please explain to me the logic behind the organization's position on
Certainly,
I would be happy. Consent?
I would be happy to explain that. In addition to my role as president of NOW, I'm also a grandmother of 2 granddaughters and a retired school counselor. And having worked with children as well as being a parent myself, in the best of situations, children will seek their parents' input and support and guidance. But sadly, many young people don't have the kinds of relationships with their parents where that can be done in a safe manner. We have talked with young girls who are threatened with being thrown out of the home, who suffer abuse as a result of disclosing that information. And certainly, if they're not old enough to make these decisions, as some would say, as I think I'm hearing you say, certainly as well, they're not old enough to be parents. And it's a very personal decision, and we believe women should have the right to control their reproductive decisions, even young women. So we would hope that everyone would respect that.
We have a follow-up.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Madam Chair, so the question wasn't about a specific procedure. It was generic, right? So if you have to get a parental consent to take something as simple as Tylenol, any medical procedure, you would think you would need parental consent. And that's why I was asking kind of the logic behind it in general. And specifically on the bill, I know that there were provisions to allow law enforcement or the judicial system to still allow as an escape valve, particularly in situations where the family was not supportive of any of those decisions, kind of to your point there, where there was still another alternative. And so the bill kind of covered a lot of the things that you talked about. Could you please explain
Yes,
the rationality
I
behind
would
that?
be happy to explain the rationality or the rationale for that. So as you're well aware of, I'm guessing, pregnancy is a very time-sensitive condition, and we know that the safety that women will experience if they're having to have an abortion is much more guaranteed when they have it early in their pregnancy. And if they're needing to go in front of a family court judge or whatever judicial representative would make that decision, this would delay it, and it would further interfere with the safety of this procedure. And our concern is, at the foremost, the safety of the person who's going through this procedure. And so time is of the essence.
Thank you very much, Ms. Shaklin.
Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Okay. We have Susan.